What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin coming back with a video, and today we have the box office breakdown for November 1st to November 3rd, and man, oh man, Joker continues to outperform almost every person's expectations, now crossing another milestone on its march towards... I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, Maleficent Mistress of Evil comes in at number 3 this weekend, Joker at number 2, and at number 1, Terminator Dark Fate with $29 million in its opening weekend. Yes, a Terminator movie, $29 million opening weekend, which comes in well below expectations from the domestic market, and overseas, it's not performing very well either. But let's go ahead and dive into the big news of the day, for me at the very least, which is, of course, Joker now at $934 million. This is extremely impressive feat for a film that only cost $55 million to make. This puts the film on pace to cross the $1 billion mark within the next couple of weeks. The film has been performing so strongly. Again, it's making once again another $13.9 million with a 28% drop from last week to this week, from week 4 to week 5. This movie has been out for 30 days and is still making over $10 million in a weekend. That's incredibly impressive. It's a film that is essentially making $1 million every single day domestically and is still very much performing very well overseas. It's almost to the $300 million mark here in the US, and is about crossing and has crossed over the $600 million mark overseas. It's incredibly impressive for that film with such a little budget to be able to do this, and hopefully it's a huge wake-up call to Hollywood to say, hey, guess what we want? We want good films. We want good films with great acting, great cinematography, without you having to put the same old cookie-cutter nonsense that hopefully audiences will start to say, screw you to, but of course... we'll still have to wait until the next Marvel film to see what actually happens with it. The next film is Maleficent Mistress of Evil, which has now made around $374 million. So it actually looks like the international box office is showing up for this film. Now, this is not impressive feats. This is not impressive numbers by any means. This is a film that likely will, cap out around $450 million max, or even even just get close to the $400 million mark, seeing that this film has now been out for 3 weeks itself. It's still performing well overseas, not really performing at all here domestically, $75.2 million. And so looks like Disney's dealings with the international box office continues to keep it surviving, keep it alive. And of course, there's so many different things that we can say about it. Screw Disney, stop supporting their films. And then of course we got this film. Let's see if they've updated the numbers at all. As you can see right now, it looks like they're going through some server updates over there. It's made $10.6 million domestically, $94.6 million internationally. Now, keep in mind that these numbers have not been updated yet. As you can see, internal server error. It seems to me that they are going through the process of updating these numbers. But if we take into account the fact that it made about $29 million this weekend, add on top of that the money that it made from the Friday. So... hold on one second. Let me just break this down for myself. So the 10.6 includes the $2 million from Thursdays, and then there's $10 million it made on Friday, so it should be around $12 million. Taking into account there are other $19 million that needs to be added to that, you're looking at a film that has made a little over $30 million domestically at this point in time. And internationally does not include China, which also made another $20 million or so, which puts it well over $100 million. So you're looking at a film that it likely is closer to the $125, $130 million mark at this point. But that's abysmal for a brand new film, a Terminator film at that, and a film that has done so poorly in China, I don't think it'll stay for the full 4 weeks that most films tend to get in their China theatrical release. It's only made about $25 million there, and that is abysmal. And every time you have a film from the West that does very poorly in China, they tend to get pulled pretty early on. All we can say is this. This is evidence, once again, that if you try and market a film and you try and push wokeness, and you try and say, look, the future is this, and this is the statement we're making, and screw you to the old fans, screw the old fans, we're creating this for a new generation. That was the big talking point for this film. It's going to be Terminator for a new generation, which is why we're going to have a bunch of different people from different backgrounds on the screen, and instead of the lead being a male, it's going to be a female-centric film, and it's all about the future. The problem is that many people don't buy into that nonsense. You keep in mind that this franchise has mostly been a male-dominated film, a male-dominated franchise. And that doesn't mean that women can't enjoy it. Obviously, women do enjoy it. But if you're going to tell me that more men aren't going to enjoy this film, or that less men are going to enjoy this franchise than women, you're kind of just missing reality at this point in time. And actually, they have shown that even for Dark Fate, even with it pushing this female-centric cast, it's still about 58% of the audiences for opening weekend were actually male audiences. So it seems to indicate that it is still a male franchise despite their efforts. It reminds me a lot of what they tried to do with Star Wars, right? They tried to do this with Star Wars, saying, we're making Star Wars for a new generation, and so now we're going to have it be pushing on a female-centric character, and now we're going to push different diversities, etc., but we're doing it all for the sake of diversity and not because the characters are that interesting. And as we've seen with the Star Wars franchise, it's pretty much gone down the drain. Dark Fate did the same thing. They said, oh, let's go ahead and push diversity for the sake of diversity instead of actually telling a good story. In fact, to me, I think that they honestly said to the old fans, screw you, and gave them a giant middle finger within the first 5 minutes of this movie. For those who have not seen the movie yet and want to avoid spoilers, turn off the turn off the video for the next 5 seconds. But the fact that they killed John Connor in the first 5 minutes is just ridiculous. And it makes a lot of sense that a lot of people are hearing that spoiler in the first 5 minutes and they're like, wait a minute, that's stupid. Why would I want to watch this movie? And why a lot of people are walking out of the film saying, yeah, you should be at least able to justify, you should be at least able to justify that decision, to justify that point. And they're not able to do so with the rest of the film. And so, of course, this film is failing, is bombing. You already have every single publication out there talking about how this film is indeed a bomb. And it's really no surprise. By the end of its run, keep in mind that the film itself made, let's see, going to the summary of it to the box office, it cost about $185 million production-wise. You add on top of that twice that, or rather a half of that amount on top of the additional $185 million. You're looking at a film that costs between $250 million and possibly $300 million, depending on the estimates you look at, in order to actually make and promote this movie. That means this film needs to make northwards of $450 million in order to break even. If it's only getting to the $120, $130 million range in its opening weekend, and it's likely to have a tremendous drop-off, seeing that you got big films like Dr. Sleep coming out next weekend, and other films too that get by releases, and a Joker film that is continuing to perform week in and week out. It's going to be very hard competition. In fact, Terminator Dark Fate has the chance of dropping out of even the top 3 for next weekend in its second week. And if it does that, if it loses to films like Joker or even Maleficent at this point in time, or even I know that Addams Family came in at number 4 this weekend. If you have the film continuing to perform that poorly, you're going to have a situation where you're looking at losses of upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars for this franchise and for this film. Now, that makes me happy, not because I hate Terminator, because I love the Terminator franchise. T1 and T2 are some of my favorite films of all time. But if this is the message that needs to be sent to Hollywood, that we will not just accept your nonsense garbage, your woke garbage, your stupid narratives that you keep trying to push in every single movie and every single franchise, well then, so be it. Screw you. All right, anyway, let me thoughts about this. Do you think that Dark Fate will make its money back at this point in time? And even more importantly, do you think that Joker is finally going to reach that $1 billion mark? I would say in about 2 weeks, it will probably reach that number, but assuming that it makes $1 million every day here in the United States, you're looking at getting about $940 million by the end of the week just from the United States alone. Add on top of that money that it will continue to make in the foreign markets, looking at it probably getting closer to the 950, 960. There is a chance this could cross the $1 billion mark next weekend. There's a very good chance that could happen. However, I think it might just take 2 weeks. I'll have to look and see what the numbers are looking like halfway through this week when we get the foreign totals added in, because those tend to get added on a little bit later than the domestic numbers. But you're looking at a film right here that is going to be percentage-wise one of the highest grossing films of all time when you compare it to the budget. When you compare it to the budget, the percentage of how much more profit it made versus how much it cost is absolutely insane, especially when you compare it to other big budget films like Dark Fate or Maleficent, which are not nearly performing nearly as well as they probably should. But anyway, let me thoughts about that and all the things we talked about in the comment section below. If you like that video, smash that like button, give me a subscribe, it helps me out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.